Brian. Hello.
Hello, how you doing,
Uh,
Angelica? Are you well?
I'm great. Really excited about this one.
Awesome. Yeah,
How are
me too.
you?
Me too. I can't wait to have a chat with you and kind of discuss all of the interesting things that we've been up to.
Let me introduce you a little bit. You're a photographer, you have been a lecturer for about a decade, but what I want to focus on today is your breathing project. So you're also a trained Wim Hof method breathing instructor.
I've been working in education for a really long time, and over the last couple of years, I've taken that kind of knowledge of learning how to teach people things into the wellness arena, if that's the right terminology for that. And I set up a thing called the Breathing Project, which focuses primarily on getting people to engage with conscious, active breathing to improve both their physical and mental health.
We're here today to talk about the power of our nervous system. And again, through conscious breathing, through learning those techniques, it's something that can have a positive instant effect on us. It's something you can do right now. It's not tomorrow, it's not later, it's whenever you choose it to be. So how did your journey with conscious breathing start? Because I find a lot of people, when I talk to them, this sort of initial reaction is, well, why would I be thinking about breathing? It's something that I just naturally do. But it turns out there is more to it, and also I think the easiest things are the hardest.
Yeah, the how I describe it is it's simple but complex. So it's a kind of, which is obviously a kind of paradoxical idea, but the idea of breathing is very familiar to us all. Of course, it's the first thing that we did, and it'll be the last thing we ever do. Is take a breath. And so that as a concept is straightforward. But it's so ingrained in ourselves that we don't pay attention to it. It's not something, things that that happen constantly, we pay no attention to. It's just the kind of natural existence of our kind of being. We don't focus on the things unless we have to. So the people who care about their breathing are people who have problems with their breathing, smokers, people with lung problems, asthmatics. If you think about of our internal systems, all of the things that we have that keep us alive, like the main functioning stuff, which funny enough are all around it. We talk about the core when we're exercising, but basically your chest down to your thoracic cavity and then down to your abdomen. All of the important stuff, excluding the brain, of course, all the stuff that keeps you alive is in this little area here. And all of those things are autonomic, which means they function without us having to do anything. The thing that is different about breathing than all of those other functions and all of those other organs that keep us alive is that we can also consciously influence breathing. So it's the only one that we can do that to. We can't think about it and stop our heart beating. We can't think about how our food's going to digest in our stomachs. But if we want, we can hold our breath, we can stop. And that's something that's unique to human beings as far as we know. There are sea mammals that will hold their breath when they're underwater, like dolphins and whales, but that's as a response to a situation. We as human beings are consciously able to just decide for no reason other than we just want to. And there's lots of kind of theories on that, but one simple thing that I like to think about is that everything in our bodies is there for a reason. Everything has a purpose. Every function that our body has a reason and function and does something that keeps us existing as human beings. So why would the ability to hold our breath be any different? But our ability to control the patterns of our breathing, how frequently, how fast, how slow, all of these things, that is there for a reason. And we, as a society, generally pay no attention to that.
It's really interesting what you just said, because I feel like for me, ever since I started doing conscious breathing regularly, for me, it's my hidden superpower. So what you just said, it's there for a reason, and it can do magic.
I mean, it really can, and then and I think, well, it can do magic, but it's only because it looks like magic. It's like it's not magic; it's just our bodies. It's just our bodies are magic. That's the thing, really. Our human existence is magic. Our consciousness.
Oh, I would be high-fiving you if we were in the same room right now.
It's not magic. It's just a human body, but the human body is magic.
I like that. I really like that. It's powerful. Maybe we can talk about the benefits of conscious breathing a little bit. So there is a long list. It gives you a sense of self-control. It brings clarity. It calms you down because it balances your cortisol levels, and that's obviously a stress hormone, and lots of other things. It improves your immune system, but maybe I feel like ever since I started working in the mental health area for the last 2 years, I've been trying to sell that to people, because it's just wonderful. And I'm like, everyone should use the superpower. You have it, just use it, but you have different audiences. You have people who are more science oriented, you have more spiritual people, and there is a lot of science behind this, behind conscious breathing. So sometimes when I have people who don't necessarily buy into it, I'll use examples such as Navy SEALs use this technique. They use breathing exercises to calm themselves down when they're under a lot of pressure. And who's under more pressure than Navy SEALs? And they only use proved methods. So I'll be like trying to make it more urgent and more appealing to. So yeah, when there is back in your face, that's what they're taught. This is your number one priority, clarity, and to bring yourself down a little bit. And I realized that it might not be relatable for everyone because we're not all Navy SEALs. But at the same time, if it works for them, why not use this powerful technique in whatever it is that we're going through, when we need to get a little bit of clarity, when we've got emotions just raising, going up the roof, and stuff.
How you connect with people about the breathing and the importance of the breathing and the benefits of the breathing and all these different things. How you do that is so reliant on where they are. What their relationship is, what they believe in, what their kind of experience is, what their belief systems are, and what their value systems are. Value systems are a really important thing whenever you're trying to communicate to someone about anything. So, like you say, if I was speaking to someone who goes to a CrossFit gym 3 times a week, who is very focused on staying physically fit and these sort of things, then yes, I might talk to them about the benefits of breathing based on kind of how it improves your cardiovascular system, or like how Navy SEALs use box breathing to kind of improve their kind of moments of calm and stillness in these kind of busy, finding the kind of ways in for any given kind of group of people, or any certain people who have a certain set of value systems and belief systems, is always the key. But the thing that's beautiful about breathing is that it doesn't discriminate. So it doesn't matter whether you think that you really care about the kind of cardiovascular, fitness side of things. It's still going to give you the spiritual stuff on the other side. And likewise, it doesn't matter if you're spiritual and you just want to meditate and these sort of things. It'll still give you the benefits of kind of the physical benefits of improving your cardiovascular system. So finding the way in with people is a really important part of kind of what I do, really, and finding those connections. And it's hard, it's really difficult because of the association we have with breathing. I was just breathing. How can this person teach me anything? I just breathe. And that's the reality of it. But sorry, that's not the reality of it. The truth is that breathing you could learn a different pattern of breathing for every day of the week, and it's this, I have reams of books of all these different people who have dedicated their lives to breathing. This is an ancient tradition, thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. Pranayama is some of the oldest yogic techniques. The Sufi mystics talk about breathing. Chinese and Japanese culture, they talk about qi, and that's all about life and breath force. So it's the most fundamental component of our human existence, but yet we kind of take it completely for granted.
We can all relate to some extent that everyone understands when you're stressed, you breathe faster and shallower, and when you're calm, it's the opposite, right? So in that sense, we're all kind of aware, but it's a bit of a subconscious game until you start paying attention to what's happening inside of you and start controlling it a bit more.
Yeah, that's what's really amazing about the Wim Hof method specifically. Now, you know, because you've been on a workshop with me, but the other component of the Wim Hof is, or one of the other components of the Wim Hof method is getting into an ice bath, getting into very, very cold water. And that is a really good way of communicating to people just on how important the breath is in controlling certain systems in the body, because everyone knows that feeling. Even if they don't get in the ice bath, everyone knows the feeling of getting into cold water. And the first thing that happens is, you know, your breath is taken away, that idea. And even the language you use around that, you know, the breath is taken away, our breath is taken away in that moment. You know, and what that does, it sends a signal to the rest of your body to say something is happening. You need to react. You need to react to this situation immediately. It's not, you don't have time to think about this. You just need to react. So that's what that intake of air is. It's a signal to act, for action, to do something. So what's amazing about the Wim Hof method is that it allows people to experience that firsthand, to see that, to physically feel that kind of rush of like, oh shit, I need to do something, I need to take action. But then also in the workshops, as you know, we learn and we train each other how to control that situation. So how through conscious slow exhalations we can start to change how the body is reacting to the stressful situation.
Yeah, and you don't even have to take a cold bath. You can, although I highly recommend it, it's the most rewarding and empowering thing ever, but you can use that same technique whenever you're in a stressful situation, whenever you feel stressed.
And that's it. And the moment that happens, the thing that's great about the ice is that you're totally right. You don't need the cold water for it to happen. But in the controlled environment of the ice, you can ice water. You can feel it happen. You can take control of it. And then in the future, when it happens in a different scenario, so you know, a panic attack or something, you know, something scary happens, whatever, and you can feel your breath racing, starts to panic. You can remember this moment that you took control.
Oh, I remember, Brian. I remember every second.
But it's but it, what it does is it gives you this control. It gives you this power to take control in those situations, and that is a fundamental component of breath work and breathing, and having an awareness. Breath awareness is about taking control in those situations. And so much of our life is out of our control, but one thing that's almost always in our control is how we breathe, and breathing then can influence everything else. So when I talked before about this idea that all of our important stuff is in this area, our heart, our lung, our kidneys, our intestines, our stomach, all of these important things are all together. Well, guess what? Breathing improves the function of all of those things. Conscious breathing improves the function of all of those things. Underneath all of that stuff is a giant muscle that runs across your abdomen called your diaphragm, which we'll all have heard of, I'm sure. But the diaphragm is the thing that pulls air into your lungs. And it is literally connected to almost everything else in there. Like if you see a drawing of what the inside of the body looks like, it doesn't really look like that. Everything is packed together. If you see a dissection, or everything is in there, literally packed in there, touching. So by strengthening your diaphragm, you're strengthening everything else. You're strengthening the function of everything else in there.
But that's a long-term game, right? That's once you commit.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find it difficult to commit to regular breathing exercises. I think it's because there is that instant effect, and you know, which is different from mindfulness or meditation. That stuff is hard, especially meditation. You know, to me it's art. It takes some serious commitment. It takes some serious practice. And I think it's a little bit part of it. People get discouraged very quickly, right, when they start meditating and even mindfulness. And I think it's part of it is because it's a little bit ambitious to expect your brain to go from that state of emergency that we practice daily. We practice multitasking. We practice distraction, especially this day and age. So it's ambitious to expect your brain to go from that to instant calmness, I think. But with breathing exercises, I don't want to say that it's easy, but it's that nice entry level, and it is for everyone. It opens that door to mindfulness and meditation, but you don't have to walk through it if you don't want to.
I agree. I think that the kind of mysticism around meditation, especially, puts a lot of people off the kind of idea of what people. And obviously, I don't know what people are thinking all the time, but how I imagine people to kind of perceive the idea of what is supposed to be happening in your head when you're meditating, that often it's probably along the lines of, yes, you're thinking about nothing and you're zen and you're floating and all these things. And there's two things about that. One, it's not really the reality of the situation, unless you are a kind of, you spent your entire life on the top of a mountain in Nepal, then the chances are you're not reaching those levels of enlightenment, and that's not happening. But the other side of it is that it does take effort and time, just as you say, to be able to just kind of sit still and quiet your mind. We live in such busy lives now, constantly being stimulated, as you say, to go from frantic to zero, that's just not going to happen. But what's great about the breathing is that it can take you instantly into a quieter place, because through the act of conscious breathing, two things happen. One, you get something to focus on. So those people with really busy minds, who have a really hard time of switching things off, which is most people, by the way, it's most people have that experience. That gives someone the opportunity just to focus on this thing. So it's kind of brings our attention, breathing in, letting go, breathing in, letting go, gives us the focus, this attention on this thing. So whilst our mind might pop off here, there, and everywhere, we can still bring it back to this breath each time, this conscious breath each time. So that gives people a kind of something to hold on to. If you just say sit and meditate, that doesn't mean anything. What does that mean? How can anyone who has no understanding of that, how can they experience that? They can't. But if you say take a deep breath, everyone has an understanding of what that is. You say take 30 of those deep breaths and then stop breathing for a period of time, then you're going to experience something brand new. You're going to experience all of these new sensations. You're going to experience all of this electric flowing through your body. You're going to turn on the electrical systems in the body. You're going to flood the body with cortisol and adrenaline and all these things in this incredibly calm, relaxed state. You're going to experience things that you've never experienced before, if you've never done any conscious breathing before. And that is it. That is how people get in. It's through experience. It's certainly how I got in. I never meditated in my life before doing breath work. I wouldn't have had the capacity to do it. Busy mind, couldn't sit still, all these things. But something happens in deep breathing. It's a physiological thing. You might want to call it a spiritual thing, but something happens that kind of changes in your experience, and changes your experience to this idea of what meditation is, or what being still is, or any of these kind of things that you hear talked about in kind of wellness culture.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of those things that you can do anywhere. So I don't always, and I don't like to say I don't always have time, because I believe that if you care about something, you can always make time. There are exceptions to every rule, obviously, but also because I'm done self-negotiating. Like, I've worked on that for a long time, and my self-discipline is on point. But if it happens that I don't have time to meditate or to do mindfulness, conscious breathing you can do anywhere. You can do it on the bus, you can do it in the shower. There's no excuse. So it's about creating that habit, and making small steps. Any action is action.
It's something you have with you at all times. It's not like you can leave the house without your lungs, right? You can go without your yoga mat, you can go without your kind of mindfulness. If I take a day off for whatever reason, which is very, very rare for me, but it's happened in the past, I can immediately feel the difference that day. I can immediately feel the difference, that I'm reacting slightly. I'm slightly more agitated. My heart rate is slightly raised, all of these things. And the person said to me, oh, do you not feel as though you're a bit, you're a bit controlled by that then? And I said, well, yeah, maybe, but if I don't have access to my lungs, I'm in a lot more trouble, It's like, I've always got access to it. So being reliant on breathing is fine.
I think that makes sense, because we're overstimulated these days. So even if you don't do it for a day, you go back into the rhythm of what's going on around you, rather than being in your own rhythm.
A really nice way of putting it.
My story started a couple of years ago with when I just completely run myself down. I'm a very active person and have always been, but I had to learn the hard way about the sort of limitations of your body. So it started, in my case, it started with anxiety, with feeling really, edgy, and not for a second did I think that it perhaps has something to do with my mental health and physical health, because they don't exist separately. I feel like it's important to stress that. And there was no one around me to also guide me and to show me that. And suddenly you find yourself in that place, in that weird place, and it is a gradual thing.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a familiar story. I'm sure that there are, and I have experienced these people countless times through my workshops of burnout, especially is a big one now, of people who are kind of constantly feeling the pressure to be productive at all times, that they basically sacrifice all sense of rest and relaxation because you have this urge to be active. And when we're not being active, we're taking these moments of time away from work, let's say, but we're straight onto our phones, which are stimulating us in a different way. We're straight onto watching TV, which are stimulating us in a different way. It's a constant barrage of stimulation, and the body does not do well. The body and mind did not do well with constant stimulation. If I talk a little bit of science, not a lot, but the central nervous system is the thing that controls so much of kind of how our body functions. And a well-functioning central nervous system means that is a well-functioning human. Without that, it's incredibly difficult to function well. So we have two main sides of our central nervous system. You have your parasympathetic nervous system, which is also known as your rest and digest system. And then you have your sympathetic nervous system, which is more commonly referred to as fight or flight. And that's the thing that most people have heard of. And probably one of the reasons why we hear about fight or flight more than we hear of rest and digest is that it's a bit more exciting, but also it's like the state that we're in most of the time, and we shouldn't be. So the fight and flight process, the fight and flight response is a survival mechanism. So our physiology is essentially the same. Our biological makeup is essentially the same as it was 10,000 years ago, when we were hunter-gatherers, when we had to go days and days without food, that we would have had to kind of go and hunt. We would have had to, face unimaginable kind of hardships, both in the climate and kind of, our daily life. And our physiology is basically the same. So our fight and flight response is the thing that kept us alive through those difficult times, that it was our ability to switch on all of these systems in our body that would allow us then to react to these kind of dangers or these threats or anything that might be coming our way. So whenever we go into fight or flight, our heart rate elevates, our kidneys release adrenaline into the body, we pause digestion, our pupils dilate. All of these physical things happen into our body because we're on red alert. We flood the body with stress hormones so we can react and move the body quickly if we need to, run away or fight. So we flood the body through all of these systems. So that's a really, really important part of our survival, and we still need that. We need it in a different way now. We're not having to fight bears or tigers or go for weeks and days without food and all these things, or live in cold climates or really, really warm climates. We're not having to deal with all of these extremes, but we have stresses in different ways. So it's important to still have that. But what makes for a normal functioning human body is that it's able to go into these stressful situations, activate that sympathetic nervous system, and then after that situation is over, after that drama is over, after that kind of fear or explosion or whatever it is over, that our body just naturally flows back into a parasympathetic state, into a rest and digest state, where all of this, everything slows down. The heart rate slows down, our breathing slows down, we can process food better, our body just relaxes into this moment. And if we're not switching between those two things, it disrupts everything in the body. And that's what's happening in contemporary society. We're constantly being stimulated.
It's a genius mechanism, and it should not be ignored.
That's the thing, it's there for a reason. It's like everything else, it's there to kind of protect us. So this is why you have such high levels of stress at the minute in the world today. This is why you have such high levels of burnout, high levels of anxiety disorders, high levels of panic disorders, all of these things. Of course, there are multiple contributing factors, but one of the major things is this imbalance in the human body, that we're not moving from a fight and flight response into the rest and digest response. And guess what? Through deep breathing, conscious breathing, you can shift your body both into that fight and flight state, which is what we do with the Wim Hof method, and then allow the body to flow back into a calm, rest and digest state. And you do that multiple times in one sitting. You do that sitting multiple times throughout your life, and suddenly you can flow much easier between rest and digest, fight and flight. And you suddenly start to realize that these situations that were causing you to lose your mind, they stop happening, because you get, okay, that's annoying, I'm upset about that, I'm angry, but it's okay. And you just start to flow back and forth.
I think it's a different kind of control, where you go from being controlled by everything that's happening around you and being very reactive to things, to focusing on what's happening inside of you and observing how you react, and learning, your own behaviors that way, and learning to control them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, it's about taking control of like your physiology. You can speed up your heart rate and slow it down by taking control of your breathing. You can improve all of the functions of what's going on in your body just through breathing. So in these moments of total kind of desperation, where you feel like just, the world is on top of you, nothing's going right, you just feel crushed, crumbled, whatever it is, and you have no control over the situation, because often that is the case. All of this stuff is going on that we do not have control of, but you can have that sense of control just by taking a few deep conscious breaths, slowing your heart rate down, and suddenly it doesn't feel quite as ominous as it had in the past.
One of the things that I would like to do one day is take an ice bath with Wim Hof. How was that, Brian?
Yeah, wow. I mean, that would
The
be...
man.
He started it all.
It's strange because he's sort of the best and worst thing about the Wim Hof method. Obviously he's the man, and I guess I have love in my heart for that man. I would be in an old mindset, kind of anxious, worried state. I wouldn't be where I am right now were it not for Wim Hof. He's a really crazy character, and but yet he is full of love and compassion, and he's totally genuine. And whatever you might see through the kind of lens of the media, that's not totally the true reality of this man. This is a man who experienced unimaginable hardships. His wife committed suicide and left him with 4 children. He absolutely was devastated, and he's come through all of this to become, this kind of almost cult figure, and develop this technique that is literally changing thousands and thousands of people's lives. Enough for me to kind of be prepared to dedicate a massive chunk, if not all of my life, to kind of to this method. And that's in part because of the experience that I've had and how it's changed my life, but how I see it changing other people's lives as an instructor now.
I love the bit when all the scientists jump on him, because they were like, "Oh, he must be an anomaly."
Yeah, that was the thing. So they did all these tests. There's a couple of famous studies that were carried out, and they worked out, "Oh, right, yeah, well, you can do this. So, but it must be you're just a freak, you're just a person to do it." And he kind of absolutely denied that was the case, and took a group of people to a shack in Poland and trained them in the breathing techniques, and took them up a frozen mountain in their shorts and all these sort of things, and then took those people back to the scientists and said, test these people, and they were able to do many of the things that Wim was able to do. And so it was with that he was able to kind of put a stamp and a seal around this method to say, look, this is the real deal. This is not just me and a bunch of crazy people in our underwear in a snowy covered mountain. There's serious realities here of things happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, to get back to kind of the having an ice bath with Wim, yeah, it was a very surreal experience. So as part of our training, we went to the Pyrenees and we went to this area that they had, and they put, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kilograms of ice into this bath. And then in groups, we all got in and we did, on the first day, we did a 12-minute ice bath with Wim kind of walking around. And it was a surreal and wonderful experience. It's different to the experience perhaps of kind of what you might experience in if you went into nature on your own and you do cold exposure that way, or if you do an ice bath in a workshop with me, for example, that's a different sort of thing. This was very much, this was about unity. This is about connecting with all of these other soon-to-be Wim Hof Method instructors who had all had their own experiences. They were all there for reasons that were, similar to mine. All had been through some hardship, and the Wim Hof Method had pulled them together.
I think for me, he shows the strength of human character. He's the epitome of that, and he shows the respect towards nature and all of the things you can't control. And he's humble in all of that and authentic. And I think what we've been talking about here is that your body, your nervous system has its own intelligence.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, you're right about that. His famous lines are like, nature is our teacher, and harsh nature is the best teacher. So this is why he takes himself out into these harsh environments and puts the body into these places that otherwise we would run away from, but it's because this is where we learn. This is what we learn about ourselves and what our bodies are capable of doing. We're so, kind of climate controlled is the way to put it right now, where we sit around in houses with central heating, and then we go into our car and we wear big coats, and then we go to our office and everything is the same temperature, regardless of what nature outside is telling us. And that, of course that's a good thing. I'm not saying that we should be, wish we were living in these harsh environments, but what that does is it weakens the body. It makes the body seem as though it's not capable of all of these amazing things that it absolutely is. And it's only whenever you put yourself into these kind of what would be perceived as crazy or bonkers things that he does, when you put your body into those states, you start to realize, actually, I can do this. So my body can do this. And not only can it do it, it's thanking you for it. It's thanking you for those moments, it starts to function better. And of course you can't overdo it and all these sort of things, but controlled moments of stress are what the body wants. It's what the body needs to function well. And yeah, so that body intelligence, that is what's happening. And your mind saying, let's just sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day. And that's fine too. I don't have a problem with doing that. I do that myself, but not to do it all the time. That's when problems arise, when we're not using our bodies to the capabilities that they're able. That's when everything, you think about anything. If you sat on the couch and didn't move, well, what would happen? All of your muscles would just wither away. You'd just be a blob. Everything would go into atrophy.
A blob. I like that.
But that is what's happening, just on a much slower scale. We're not, the body is so good, is so smart at adapting, that as soon as it feels as though it doesn't need to use something, it stops using it. Why waste energy in that? Oh, right, well, I don't need to walk up these stairs, or I don't need to walk up this mountain. Well, I'm not going to use my leg muscles as much then. I'm just going to let them wither away.
That's a great one to end on, to become aware of that intelligence and to respect it and to learn to listen to it. It's all about learning to listen to your body. Because things are happening for a reason. I really like what you just said. I think it's really, I find it really fascinating and inspiring, and I hope that other people, resonate with that a little bit.
Yeah, listening to your body, this is something that you'll hear if you ever come to my workshops or any of my online breathing sessions that I've been doing recently. You'll hear me say those words, listen to your body, over and over again. Then eventually you just start to notice, and you can take action. You can stop them. You can change what you're doing. You can just be aware of them, or just be witness to them, allowing yourself to focus on them. It's a really, really important thing.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's nothing, sometimes it's just fatigue, but it's learning to listen and to learning to read what's going on inside of you. I love the clarity it brings. That's what I found. I've been doing the breathing sessions with you every week religiously for the last 4 weeks, and it's just, and obviously I do a lot in my own time as well, but it's just a combination of all those things. I feel like I'm in a much better space than I ever have been, really.
Yeah, amazing. It's so great to hear that, if someone, who kind of has been involved in your journey, that's really amazing for me to hear. I came up with I don't know if it's a bit cheesy, but I'll tell you anyway. I came up with a little saying that is kind of probably an amalgamation of things that I've heard over the past. But it's the body knows and the breath shows.
Oh,
so
I like that.
Your body knows what it needs, and the breath, taking deep breaths in, the body will show you what needs attention, where it needs to go, how you need to, do you need to calm yourself down, do you need energy, whatever it is.
So, amazing.
Yeah.
High five, Brian.
Yeah, digital high five.
Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, oh no, thank you so much. And like I say, honestly, it's been an utter pleasure to kind of take you from our first session in in Birmingham in the Wim Hof method through to seeing you now every week on the breathing sessions. It's been wonderful. So thank you so much for joining me every week. It's great.
Thank you. Powerful intro. Okay.
It's hard now, dude.
No, all good there.